Hey everybody, Santa Chris here with Santa's Laser Engraving. Been a busy week for me. Started working on those electrical lines inside that 10 by 16 building that we've got and got them all together. And as you saw in the video, actually did a test run of the electrical on the lights. So the lights are working, got all the outlets in. So that part's taken care of. The electrician should now be able to come in and run the power from the house out to the building and get power to it. We're hoping to have that done this week. Also, got to paint the building in the HOA. We've got the building. We're in the process of painting that thing right now. And we had originally had a contractor that was going to build the building for us. But as you do, sometimes you find a contractor that you don't necessarily trust. So we ended up going with a portable building. But anyway, that's all coming along. And hopefully by next week, when I do another video, we'll be inside there. Might not be a lot to look at, but we'll at least be in there at that point. So. But today I wanted to talk to you a little about some of the things that I think you may want to consider before you jump into this crazy laser engraving world. We've all uttered the words, the title of the video, I want a laser. And we all come at it for different reasons. And if you've been looking around any time, amount of time, once you look on Facebook or YouTube or any of those sites, the advertisements for all of them start popping up. And there's a ton of them out there to consider. My reason particularly was, of course, my engineering mindset and background. I'm getting older. Wanted to have something to do when retirement comes. And then on top of that, I've done woodworking in the past. And once that building's finished, I hope to do some woodworking in there as well. With the laser, that's just an added bonus. It keeps my mind busy as well as my hands, and I enjoy that kind of work. So my day job, of course, I use AutoCAD software doing civil engineering. And so this laser combines several of those passions into something I can enjoy. Um, I'm going to sell some of the stuff at some craft shows. I also have a website I've just started up. So, I'm like everybody else. I'll try to pay back at least the laser cost at a minimum. So, the first question you need to ask yourself is, why do I want to do this? Is it to be creative? Is it to have something to do as a hobby? Is it to make money at a craft show or even start a full-fledged business? These are important considerations because they'll start to steer you where you need to go to at least consider a laser. Maybe a CO2 would be good for like craft shows or and all the various materials that it can engrave. Maybe a fiber laser to do some metal working on a full-fledged business even. Maybe just a diode laser that's got low wattage that allows you to use your creative ability. Maybe you're just going to give it to family and friends. So these are all things that I think you need to consider before you start this journey. I personally started with a CO2 just to see how the different materials would react to being engraved. I thought that would be the best fit for most things, knowing that the fiber laser I could go later and get that to do metals and things with. But with the abilities to do all these different materials and test all these different things, you start getting a working knowledge of how this particular laser works. Now you've decided that you know what type you may want to purchase. The next thing to consider is your own ability to use software. Are you comfortable with this type of software to do your drawings with? And can you learn it? Well, of course you can learn it, but that's going to take time. There's all types of machines, including laser engravers, which use a software that sends codes to a controller so the machine can do work. In many industrial or manufacturing type settings, this was called a G code and had to be programmed into the computer by each CNC programmer. Now, this machines use what they call a Cartesian coordinate system to move the tool to the location to do whatever work is required. You've seen them before. You've seen them in school. I'll show you this one right here. So here's the Cartesian coordinate system, and you can see the X value goes in left and right. The Y would go forwards and backwards on a laser. And then we also have a Z axis that I'll show you on the next photo. So here's the Monport 60-watt laser I own. The X-axis moves left to right. The Y-axis moves back and forth. And then the Z-axis goes up and down. Now this Z-axis moves by an actual motor that moves it up and down, but in some cases you may actually have to lift your laser up and down.
So here's an example of what would actually happen. The big gray circle is actually our laser head sitting at 0, 0. And the can is sitting at a 3 in the X value and 2 in the Y axis. So basically the coding would end up telling the laser to move at 3 and 2 simultaneously. When it does that, instead of coming across and going up, it would go at an angle, go up to where the soda can is, do whatever you told it to do, and then it would return back to the 0 point. In this case, we would be working in absolute coordinate if we assumed that the graph that is shown in this entire drawing was actually our bed.
Well, this is simple. It is something you need to understand. Here's the grid that is in Lightburn for my Monport 60-watt laser. You'll notice that there's a green dot at the coordinate 0, 0. This is the home position for my laser head and where the controller starts any movement from. There's other starting locations within Lightburn, such as absolute coordinate, current position, or even user origin. This is talked about in all types of YouTube videos, and I may do one about it later, but for now, I just want you to know what to expect up front before the purchase. Another aspect I want you to consider is your own design abilities. In other words, do you draw by hand? Do you use some software package like AutoCAD, FreeCAD, SketchUp, or others to do original designs? Are you hoping to get a website like Etsy to purchase already created files to start your journey? They're both viable and available to you, but you must have some sense of design, scale, what's pleasing to the eye. And if you're trying to make sales, is it something that'll sell? Can you create something from thin air if your customer asks you for a custom product or a design? If you can create on your own, you may be ahead of the game. In fact, Etsy just came out with this policy change right here.
Any 3D or CNC type machine must be the original design. The impact means you can't sell anything that's a template or otherwise. And down at the AI, you have to identify that you got the design or whatever from AI type materials.
Can you learn about design? How to use the software that will come with your laser? Sure, you can, but you must understand it'll take time. And like most people who purchase one, what do you want to do? You want to run the laser. You can see all the time on Facebook groups people who've just got their laser and can't get the laser to fire. The laser's not engraving where I thought it would. I can't find settings to make this look right. People get so frustrated so quickly because they want to immediately jump in and start creating, which is great. But that's why I think this is an important video to kind of give you a heads up to it may take time, but you need to consider some of these things. We all go through this as we start this adventure. I'm going through it. And I would bet everyone has attended what I called YouTube University to get the speed up to speed on potential future laser machines and what you will be doing with your machine when you ultimately decide which one. Two final items you need to try and understand will be the speed and power, along with needing to do material tests so you can verify that you have the best settings possible. Once again, in both of these areas, there's a vast amount of information that's available for both your machine, but understand each machine has its own quirks. And over time, for example, a CO2 machine will lose some of its power and ability. Even when the manufacturer provides information like this, it is not a hard and fast answer. It's always a starting point to make adjustments needed to get the best results. I've given a lot of information, hopefully, to help you begin the process of deciding to work you want to do. I would encourage you, though, with all the excitement of trying a new machine may be overwhelming, take the time up front to gather as much information as you can. Potentially take a class or even watch videos to prepare you for the day you make the purchase. You should feel comfortable when the machine arrives, that you've got a good foundation to start engraving. Does that mean you're not going to have issues when you get it? No. But you'll feel much more confident when you first arrives on the scene at your home that you know at least enough to get started and create something. If you like where the channel's headed, please hit that like and subscribe button. I want to try to make something with this channel that we can all learn from. And as I told you before, we'll see my mistakes as well. Maybe next week we'll get from inside the Santa's workshop and we'll talk about purchase the day after and what to kind of expect from there. Thank you for watching, and everybody have a great day.